I can tell you the process because I have researched it quite a bit. Basically, the town cannot de-annex. It has to come from the property owner. The town can request it, but those are rarely granted. The property owner has to request de-annexation. This is what should have happened back when those 241 acres up on Old Georgetown Road were initially sold. The town did not de-annex that property, and therefore, the new development that will take place up there that is currently scheduled to have approximately 600 and some residences and approximately 1,200 to 1,500 voters in Ocean Isle Beach will then have control, potentially, of this particular island. Right now, we have about 865 voters. So you can see once those numbers hit that we may have lost some control here. I asked at the board meeting yesterday why this happened. And the answer, and I think it's pretty close to a direct quote, was it never came up. And I'm going to post that little vignette of my conversation with the board on my website tonight so everybody can see what the board had to say about learning from this experience. And I'm a big believer that we try and figure out why we got somewhere so we figure out how the heck we avoid it in the future and also how we can ratchet back as best we can and do damage control on it. But I believe that the de-annexation is not something that would ever get approved. Therefore, what are we going to do to protect this island from becoming another Sunset Beach? And that is really the biggest challenge that I see for us going forward. Many things pale in comparison to whether you, as the citizens residing on Ocean Isle Beach, will still have a say and control over what goes on this particular island. People will talk about districting. But districting requires that you go by census data in order to determine what those districts are. When there is a census in 2030, if that property is built out, then they may outnumber us by census data and districts would reflect that.
I really don't know that I've got a answer to that. I would not know without going to the right people how to de-annex any property. And I think I would just have to rely on the board and people in the position that would be knowledgeable in that area. I'm certainly not. It would be a learning stage. And I wouldn't try to do it without being educated or getting the right people to be in charge of it. Thank you.
Interesting question. I'm going to assume that if the current owner of the property requested de-annexation, they'd have to deal with that accordingly with the county. But that being said, the fact that it was not brought up and not discussed maybe should have been handled a little bit differently, but we're here now. We've got to deal with it. And the only way to deal with it is to prepare accordingly with possible voting districts at some point in time. Now, granted, we're a ways down the road before this is going to be an issue. I doubt any dirt's going to really be turned over there in the next year or so, and probably nothing started until 25. But we've got to prepare now, make everybody aware of what is to be done in the future. As for what it might do to control, I think we have to look at it from a standpoint of how you structure voting districts and how best to serve everyone that lives on this island now. God willing, will never be a Sunset Beach or a Myrtle Beach for that matter. But let's just take pause for a minute and realize that this is an issue we're going to have to deal with for the next 10 years. It's one of the many critical ones from an infrastructure standpoint, being able to serve that population that will be there, and they will have opinions, just like we do. So I'm in favor of looking forward and trying to find the best way to bring those voters and potential voters into the fold and doing what's right for our entire population. Because at this point, I don't see that we have an option to do otherwise. And going to the county or going to some other entity and trying to figure out the best way to de-annex a piece of property has to come from individual owners, as far as I know. So let's do the best we can with what we've got and move forward.
Who's next?
I, like you and most of the people up here, am not happy that we're in the situation that we're in. But we're in it. And I happen to know the history of why it is in the city limits now, and that's an interesting story, but it'll take me more than 2 minutes. So anybody who wants to hear that, I'll stay after and talk to them about it. But I, for one, am going to keenly focus on what we do to establish voting districts there. And that's going to start, I believe, with bringing the NC School of Government individuals in to talk to us. I hope we'll be doing some seminars, maybe even before the end of this year. But if I am reelected, that will be a high priority for the next year. So we'll learn about voting districts, and I don't think that we'll ever end up, heaven forbid, like Sunset Beach, because Sunset Beach has a whole lot fewer houses on the island than we do. But we do need to learn what are our options, how can we help ourselves by establishing voting districts with a number of municipal representatives for each voting precinct.
De-annexation is something that has to go before the legislature, just like all these others have said before me. I am confused we've got to ask ourselves why we're in this situation at looking at a property that is 2.5 miles off but still town city limits, and why it was never made public to the pros and cons of it continuing to stay in the town city limits as far as the Georgetown 241 acres that is going to be bringing a lot of possible voters that may outnumber us on the island. And we just have to ask our questions why that happened. It's disappointing it did not come public knowledge or made public enough to know what the pros and cons were, because a lot of people don't know why something's annexed into a town or de-annexed or how, and it does go towards it has to go through a big process. But the owners of that property have to request the de-annexation. And so we just have to, we have to look forward, and we have to move forward with this. And unfortunately, I feel like when this occurred in 2021, looking back on it, that, a lot of times the past and even present commissioners and all are saying they're forward thinking, but unfortunately it looks like in this situation, they may have been forward thinking to here, but not way out to here into the future of how it was going to affect our town through the infrastructure, through services. And we've got a big road ahead of us. It's a big problem that we're going to have to be asking a lot of questions about and figuring out ways to deal with it.
This is interesting. This is probably the number one topic I've been approached is this whole annexation and de-annexation situation. And like they say, there's the ship sailed. There's nothing the owner of the property can petition the state, goes through that process. I doubt that will ever happen. Going forward, I'm for de-annexing anything else off the island in stopping this at this point. I do think, though, that we can kind of, like Mark said, we have a little time because it's going to be a while before they build. Also, more and more people are moving out onto this island full time, so our population is swelling on the island. So if we do go to a districting model, I do think that we will have the ability to protect our investments out here and not have them compromised. So I do think we have to get busy and figure out how we can do this districting in a manner that's fair to everybody, but protects our investments out here too.